It's Car Con Carne. Let's eat in the car. It's Car Con Carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
This right here is Car Con Carne. It's a Q101 podcast. I'm James Van Alstyne, and Car Con Carne is sponsored by Easy Automation. Safety and security are things that you and I want, need, and expect. What if you could always come home to a well-lighted house knowing that you and everyone inside were safe? Or know that that package you were waiting on, maybe it's the vinyl version of Whatever Happened to PJ Souls by Local H. What if you knew that it was delivered and secured? Embrace the future of smart living. Empower your home with intuitive control. Call my guy Dan at Easy Automation for a free, hassle-free quote, 630-730-3728, or visit easy-automation.net. My guest, he is Scott Lucas of Local H, returning to Car Con Carne. We're outside Small Cheval in Wicker Park. I don't mean to sound negative out of the gate, Scott. Oh, L.
Welcome to my life.
Authentic Chicago environmental sounds.
Yeah.
I don't want to be negative out of the gate. The food here is great, but does this look like $50 to you?
I thank you, by the way.
Sure.
And second of all, I'm a vegetarian, and I have been since I was 20. So it's been a while since I've eaten burgers, and burgers weren't then what they are now.
Well, food cost is up across the board.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Trump won. All right. Will you stop with that stuff? But I don't get it. You're never going to convince me that a hamburger is the greatest thing in the world. And the way people, it's got the best burger. Who gives a shit?
Who
cares?
I can tell the difference between a good burger and a bad burger. What I can't tell the difference between is a good hot dog and a bad hot dog. Those all taste the same to me.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
I'll tell you what's a good hot dog. A good hot dog is a vegan hot dog. A bad hot dog is a real hot dog made out of lips and assholes.
I knew that was coming.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about an album you put out 20 years ago, Whatever Happened to PJ Souls. We've been talking about doing this for a while. I wanted to go track by track through this album since you've been touring behind it. The re-release is out. We were delayed in getting together to do this because you were touring behind it.
Yeah.
Is it weird to do that again for the same album? Well, I guess you're doing the full album play, which you didn't do back in 2004.
No. Yeah, it's different. It's different because people's reaction to this record is different. When we first toured behind this record, I don't think everybody got it. And they were kind of like, I don't want to hear this. And it was new. I mean, I think we started the tour the day the record came out, which is asking a lot of people. And we were playing like half the record at least, maybe more, like maybe 10 songs off the record. So now it's different, and I do really like the record, and I feel like people have caught up to, at least the people that were at the shows wanted to hear the record.
Well, I think the liner notes to the album say a lot. I love the way you write, by the way. The record that got us out of the 90s Alterna box of also-rans and grunge casualties that couldn't figure out what to do with themselves once the major label bubble had burst. It's the record that saved my life. That's a dramatic statement.
It is. It is. And it kind of makes a lot of sense to me because it's a record that we stopped chasing things. And there's nothing sadder than a man chasing after his own hat. So
because there was a game you had to play, or at least the expectation was that you would play that game.
Sure, and it's a game it's a fun game to play. I mean, I grew up on The Police, and like, how can you get this song in your head, even if you don't want it in your head? I like that game, and it's okay to play that game when you're in your 20s and you want to play that game, but after a certain point, I don't want to play that game anymore.
Right.
And it's just to talk about dignity with a band like Local H is probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, I'll grab at any shred of dignity I can get.
In the liner notes, you say it's the work of a band that had simply ceased to give a fuck. How liberating.
Yeah.
Hey, I think of this, it's not apples to apples, but I found that it's easier to get a job when you're interviewing for a job in the world at large when you have nothing to lose.
Right.
When there's no pressure on you, where it's like, fuck it, if I get the job, cool. If I don't, cool. Same kind of thought process.
Yeah, and I think when you see an artist, or hate that word, but when you see somebody who's making a piece of art and they don't care, and they clearly don't care, it hits differently. You know, it's just about the work and them trying to communicate to you. Say like Megalopolis, you know, that Francis Ford Coppola movie. Is it a good movie? No, but it might be a great movie, you know? So it's just things you care about as you get older are different, and I think in most ways they're better, and you just can't see it when you're on the other side of the fence.
Well, let's talk about some of the themes that people, including myself, have gleaned from the album. Drinking and bad decisions. Some of those in there.
Okay, yep.
Breakups.
Yeah.
The music industry.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So let's dig in. If you want to grab, we got the plant-based burgers from Small Cheval.
Oh yeah, did you get one too?
I did. I've never had one here.
Wow.
And I figured it'd just be easier to divide up. I got us both fries. Got us both the plant-based. Thank you. And the fries here are good.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
I've never been here before.
Stop it! Really?
Yeah, I told you I don't care about burgers. I didn't even realize they had a plant-based burger.
So let's take a look at this. I give you the Small Cheval plant-based burger. This burger is going to change your life, bro.
How's that?
All right. No. Well, let's start with who's PJ Souls? I mean, I know the answer, but there's a reason why you would name an album Whatever Happened to PJ Souls.
Yeah, PJ Souls is kind of like, if you break it down, that's kind of what the whole record is about. It's about somebody that is very important to you that may not be in the mainstream. A cult figure, basically. And in a lot of ways, when we made this record, that's kind of what we resigned ourselves to be a cult band. And I think she encapsulates that for me. Among
Halloween, Rock and Roll High School, Stripes.
The Boy in the Plastic Bubble.
She was one of my first movie crushes, I think, because of Stripes.
She was in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie. Did you say Carrie?
I did not say Carrie.
She's in everything. And when you look back on it, you're like, wow, she was such a part of growing up, of my childhood. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even really appreciate it at the time. And yeah, I mean, she's the perfect person to make a record like this about.
If your goal back then was to be a cult artist like PJ Souls, did you achieve that 20 years later?
Not on her level, but on some level, yeah.
Let's talk about PJ Souls, the album. Track by track. Opening song, Where Are They Now?
Right.
This is just 90 seconds of controlled chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting choice to open the album. You're never going to get it.
Right.
Sounds like an angry start.
Right. I mean, it's more about the way it sounds, and it's more about the title and setting a tone for the record. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there were all these TV shows on VH1, like Where Are They Now? Mm-hmm. You know, and it's this whole idea. It just rubbed me wrong. It's like this whole what have you done for me lately type of attitude that I fucking hate. You know, it's like these people have done more for you than you'll ever do for anybody. And where are they now? They're living their lives.
Right.
Who are you to ask that about them? So that's where that comes from.
What's the next song on the album?
Everyone Alive?
Everyone. Just wanted to say that. That riff, I've seen you open shows with this. That's about as good an opening song as Local H can deliver live. I mean, that sets the tone. And I think it sets the tone coming out of that first 90 seconds of controlled chaos. I think it sets the tone for the album.
It works. It's a really hard song to play, though. So it's not a lot of fun to start a show with, because if you're the slightest bit cold, you will miss notes left and right. It
right
just goes. There's no stopping, but it's a notier riff than I usually like to play.
Lyrically, taking a shot at the mundane aspects of everyday life.
What is it about? I mean, I think it's a response to the first song. Where are they now? We're alive. You know, we're living. You know, the day to day.
So it's a concept album. It's a concept album, but not really a concept album.
It is a concept record, but here's the thing: it's not really a concept record.
Okay. Got it. Check. But as I listen to that song and the lyrics, you're not someone who could ever resign himself to a desk job, are you?
No.
I can't imagine that.
No.
You need to create.
If I've done anything with my life, at least I've avoided that.
I think that's a big deal.
That's something. You know, it reminds me of the what's that? Onion. By the way, the Onion.
Oh my God! As we're recording this, the Onion bought InfoWars this morning.
Oh my God! It's not all bad news out there.
That was a master stroke.
Great. Some of it's great. I was reading the article about it in the New York Times, and I'm like, looking like under, well, not under the paper, but under the phone. Like, am I reading an Onion article right now? I couldn't believe this was happening. But there was an Onion headline, and it was like, leader of loser band stuck. Doing exactly what he wants, after all these years. And it was something like that. It was much better, but yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot to say about not being stuck in traffic every day.
Yeah.
I walk my dog at 5 o'clock, and I see people outside trying to get home, going by my house, using this backdoor shuffle that they think nobody else knows about, and everybody knows about it, so it's a parking lot out there.
Oh my God! We're in Wicker Park. I was in Wicker Park yesterday. I was going to Subterranean, and the streets are just paralyzed.
Amazing.
So I was there around 6 o'clock. It was raining. Like no one was moving. Like you're right.
Yeah.
It's miserable.
Yeah.
California Songs, the next song on the album. This has become a signature for you, and Fuck New York too. Mm-hmm. This is the one that I just always assumed was about the music business.
It's bigger than the music business, James. It's about the media at large and how like everything is either from New York or L.A. and everything in the middle is flyover country. And then when I think about the best bands, I think about Cheap Trick, I think about Replacements, I think about Bob Dylan, I think about Iggy Pop, Prince. Mm-hmm. It's all Midwestern stuff. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of anger and a chip on my shoulder back then with this whole Chicago thing. I mean, even from the beginning, I've always had when we were from Zion, I had a chip on our shoulder about that, So no matter where I go, I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder.
It's part of your charm.
Yeah, well,
part of your vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's that Zion kid, that Chicago kid, singing about the pretty folks, the West Coast folks. I listen to that, and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'm with that guy.
Right.
Like, it's a call to arms for us here in the Midwest.
It is. And it plays very well in New York, by the way. Plays okay in L.A., but it plays really well in New York.
Dick Jones. This to me sounds like what would have happened had Local H started in England.
Started in England?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it comes on to me like a Blur song.
Wow, okay. That makes a lot of sense. That does. This is odd, and I think like the label that we put this on at the time must have heard this and thought, what did we sign on to? This isn't the band we thought they were. And maybe a lot of listeners thought that. But for me, it's very experimental. The chorus and the bridge, or the chorus and the verse and the pre-chorus and the chorus all sound completely different. Mm-hmm. They have different sounds on the vocals, different sounds on the instruments, and it's just that to me is when the record gets really interesting when I listen to it. I'm like,
is this one of those songs where Andy Gerber earned his keep as the producer?
Yes, we made Andy run around in circles, and there was a lot of this. I was like, well, I want this to sound different on the pre-chorus, and it was just always me coming up with these ideas that would like, can we do this? And he goes, well, let's figure out how to do it. And so, he was up for the challenge. I don't think we could make a record like that again, but it was a lot of, can we do this? Let's figure it out. He wasn't going to say no at anything. He was just going to figure out a way to do it.
Let's go back to this idea that perhaps the music industry was addressed on this album. Money on the Dresser.
Well, that's pretty, yeah.
Yeah, they're pimping you out. The harmonica on this makes it feel a little extra sleazy and great.
Yeah, that's our friend Eric Oblander from Five Horse Johnson, and he's great. And he was playing a show at Liars. Five Horse Johnson is Herb Rosen's favorite band. So they were playing for Herb's birthday, and we were recording, Andy and I, at Million Yen, and I was like, Eric's over there. Let's go over there, grab him, and make him record on this. And he's like, okay. All right, so we went over there, and he's like, well, can you get me back in time before my guys leave? I'm like, yeah, no problem. Of course, he's playing at Liars Club, so his guys aren't leaving until 8 a.m. It's not a problem. Right. So come back, we play, he's listening to the lyrics. He goes, yeah, I'll do this. He goes, if you promise me you keep that Motley Crue line in there. And I was like, oh, absolutely, that Motley Crue line's not going anywhere.
Another thing I like on that particular song, I like Brian's drums a lot, Brian St. Clair. You did Here Comes the Zoo prior to this album. Were you guys kind of in lockstep at this point?
No, I don't think Brian was as into this record while we were making it as he was into Here Comes the Zoo. He was totally 100% there for Here Comes the Zoo. This record, he put his drums down and said, I'll see you guys later when this is done. You know, I'm just going to go home. Plus, you don't need me around. But I don't think he completely saw it, you know. And I think he probably would have liked us to do something that was more like Here Comes the Zoo. You know, now I think he likes the record. But at the time when we were making it, I don't think he was.
Interesting.
Yeah. But, I mean, even that song, there's a lot of, like, the drums. There's, like, Brian is playing the drum, and there's one drum he's playing, and he's not playing any cymbals. Those cymbals are overdubbed. And then you hear other, like, hi-hats overdubbed, and then the bridge, you hear all these snares going off, like a bunch of those, like, little monkey like things. So there's a lot going on in that song. I would recommend headphones.
I was your biggest fan. You seem to understand they'll never see you like I do. I guess it's like they said, that it was all just built up in my head, but you're still so real to me. PJ Souls. This song, when I first heard this 20 years ago, it didn't connect with me as obviously as Everyone Alive. Or even Dick Jones. With the benefit of hindsight in 20 years, this really is a standout song on the album, as it was, I guess, intended to be.
I think it's a standout song in my entire work, you know, or oeuvre. How do you...
Oeuvre? I don't know, I'm not French.
In everything I've ever done. Like, I remember writing that, and it took as long to write it as it takes about to listen to it. And I was like, that's it. That's about as good as I can do. And I thought it was perfect. And in my mind, that would have been a huge single. But I've learned over and over again that what I think about that doesn't matter.
And there's something to the way you deliver the vocals on this. You almost undersell the vocals. It almost feels more confessional the way you sing this one.
Yeah. I remember somebody was listening to it and they're like, you sound like Wilco. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can hear that. Yeah, all right.
Now, that song segues to How's the Weather Down There, and that's a masterful segue.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely masterful. How's the weather down there? Again, going back to the drums, starting with those Brian Sinclair tribal drums. This has one of the earwormiest choruses in your songbook. I think so.
I think this is the most non-melodic chorus I've ever written. People really do like this song.
I love it.
I'm grateful. But sometimes I play it, I go, I don't get it. What are you guys into here? You know?
Buffalo Trace comes after that. This to me was like a sharp turn in an unexpected direction.
Okay.
I mean, the first time I heard it, I'm like, is he doing Sabbath? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, it was all that. It's like Sabbath meets Crazy Horse.
Yeah, I came for Sabbath. I got Man of War instead.
Yeah.
But, talk a little bit about the development of this. This is just a psychedelic freakout.
This was something, I don't know if you remember, I had a band called Horse there for a second. This was one of those songs. This and Dick Jones also was another one. And when that band we played shows for about 6 months, and then it kind of didn't go anywhere. And everybody went their own way. And I was like, well, I can turn these songs into local age songs. And you know, I mean, Buffalo Trace has become sort of like a centerpiece for our shows, whether or not it's PJ Soul centric or just whatever. People dig this song.
Yeah.
And I like this song a lot. I like to play it a lot. I like long songs. So.
Could this have made the first 3 albums?
I don't know. There's a lot of... That's what makes this record great in my eyes, is there's a lot of stuff on this record that had to be earned. You couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
You know?
You couldn't have done this on those Island records. You couldn't have done on the previous album, What Would You Have Me Do? Like, there's a lot of stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, we were definitely going that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there weren't a lot of bands who were making records like Pack Up the Cats. You know, there weren't.
And certainly not at that time.
No. And there weren't records that would end with, Cure meets Caius instrumentals like, Manifest Density. So, I mean, we were working our way towards that. It's just, I feel like in order to come up and go, hey, here's our 13-minute song, I got to earn that. Mm-hmm. And, it's going to take a bit.
Heaven on the Way Down. Cool guitar sound on this one.
Great guitar sound.
Nice, fuzzy.
Yeah.
Love that. The verse is kind of a hypnotic, it is a hypnotic drone, but then you flip it on its ear with this super melodic chorus.
Right. It's almost like an Irish jig, the chorus. We've been playing it with the Married Men, and it works really well with violins. But that guitar tone, there's like this tiny tube. It's about this big. It's not a tube. It's a transistor. It's a transistor Roland amp, and this amp is all over the record. And you just crank. There's no fuzz pedal. It's just fuzz in the amp, and it just sounds so good.
Another fan favorite, Hey Rita.
Yeah.
I mean, that really has taken on a life of its own through the years.
It has, and we stopped playing it for a while, but people still like to hear that song. That song almost didn't make the record. It wasn't going to make it. I was like, this is not a local age song. Just doesn't work. And then for a second there, it was going to be a secret track.
Okay. Which was definitely a thing back then.
It was a thing, yeah. So it was going to be a secret track, and then I was like, no, that's ridiculous. Put it in the record or don't put it in the record. So we put it in the record, and I love the way it sounds. It sounds great, and I like the song, and I don't know, it just seemed too basic to me. I don't know what the problem was.
I love the way it grows, like the fullness of the song grows.
Yeah. I mean, that song, like, I had a dream about that song, and I woke up, and I was like, oh, I've got to write this song.
That's cool.
And so...
Does that happen often with you?
No. Sometimes, but not often. But this song, like, the entire song was in this dream, and I was, like, in the middle of Grant Park playing it, And I get up, and I tried to play the song, but in the dream, it had this weird dream time. It wasn't in 4/4. It was in some crazy shifty time, so I had to change the melody and lyrics and stuff to sort of turn it into 4/4. Cool. Yeah.
Heavy metal Bakesale. Now, I remember at the time people had said that the album overall sounded bitter and cranky. Maybe this song was one of the songs that led them to that opinion.
I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like a personal attack, lyrically.
Yeah, but it's almost when I think of the song, I think it's an attack aimed at yourself.
That's interesting.
Leveled inwards,
That's it, because I mean, looking at it at face value, it sounds like you're just taking a shot at someone.
No, I feel
like you're subtweeting, but you're actually directing that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
how are you going to live at 40? How are you going to live it down? How are you going to live at 40? What you going to tell your kids?
Yeah, I think everybody should think about that. Are you doing are you proud of what you're doing?
I do believe that you push your voice as hard as it'll go on this song, on this album, hard and fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of that on this record. There was a review of the record, and they said about Hey Rita that it was a great song, but too bad about the Cookie Monster vocals.
Oh no!
So there was a lot of stuff like where we're like, all right, I'm gonna stop sounding like I'm 12, and there was a lot of whiskey drinking and screaming to get a hoarse voice, and then go, all right, roll it, and then so usually by that time, hopefully you'd be at the twist and shout John Lennon breaking point, and then you'd say roll it.
So knowing that, Mellowed makes sense with its placement on the album, rolling out of that. Like, you and I both grew up on albums. Like, there's an art to album sequencing, and I think that's the comeback after that song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an epic that's tucked in the back of the album.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of them. There's a lot of epics on the record. There's a lot to ask of people. I really like that song, and I love the production of it. I love the way it fades in, and again, that's a song that it's like a few albums earlier. I don't know if I'd have the guts to play. And on this last tour that we did, that was our favorite song to play.
I was going to ask, is it fun to reconnect with these songs that you probably didn't play the first time around? Or probably haven't?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've played some of these songs. But I think we've played every one of these songs once or twice. Oh, well, we did that tour where we picked a record out of the hat. So I've definitely played these songs before.
But I mean, you're reconnecting in a big way by doing multiple dates New Year's Eve. I mean, it's got to be fun to...
Right. Yeah. No, it's a really fun record to play. I really enjoy playing it, and I mean, this whole the whole PJ Souls tour started after this tour with Helmet was getting canceled, and I was like, all right, well, let's just make this a PJ Souls tour, and it'll all be sort of, if nobody even comes, if we can't get anybody to come to these shows, we can at least warm up for the Metro show. So it was just. We didn't make a whole lot of money, but we got to play, on these shows.
I love it. Another song that I think is experimental or interesting, not expected, that's what they all say.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes on with dark, synthy vibes and then kind of becomes something different.
Right. I mean, that's totally influenced by How Many More Times by Led Zeppelin.
That's interesting.
Yeah, those kind of songs where it just will play, and then it'll take a left turn, and then instead of coming back, it takes another left turn, and then you're like, all right, I guess we're never coming back. Then eventually you get back to where you started, but it's circuitous at best.
Oeuvre.
Right.
Halcyon
It's
Days.
much easier to write. It's much easier to sound smart writing than it is talking.
100%. Halcyon Days, where were you then? Positive way to wrap up the album.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote those lyrics outside of a Blockbuster video. I was returning a DVD, and I was like, I got it, and went out and wrote it. I mean, I really, lyrically, that's probably the best, as good as I've ever done it.
Is this about falling in love, moving forward, both?
Yeah, I mean, it's that, it's all of it. It's almost about, I don't know, having sort of glimpsing at the meaning of life, not getting it all because it would drive us crazy, right? But just getting a glimpse of it,
By the way, I want to do interviews about albums 20 years after the fact from now on. Like living with an album for a couple decades and like being able to really sit with it. What a great way to approach this.
Well, it's nice because you can look at it honestly, and you can also go, and you also don't have to be, I don't have to be falsely modest about this record. I can go, oh yeah, that sounds great, because I didn't get that guitar sound. Somebody did. It wasn't me.
Well, and here's the thing about this album. You said it saved your life. Your fans think it's probably your best album. Like everyone's in agreement on this one. Like this is the one.
Yeah, that surprises me. That does surprise me. But hopefully they see the same things in it that I do.
The booklet that accompanies the album, the handwritten lyrics, is that your handwriting?
No, it is not.
I was going to say, if so, you have like psychotically good handwriting.
No. My handwriting is in another record. I can't remember what it is, but I have really bad handwriting, and it's because when I was 10, I wrote down all the lyrics to Pink Floyd's The Wall. I transcribed them exactly as they are in the album.
Oh my God!
So that stuck, and my handwriting is still that to this day.
Whatever happened to PJ Souls, we can buy physical copies while they last through Bandcamp, Brutal Panda.
Yeah, yes, from Brutal Panda. I think Gabe might have some at G&P. I don't think we have any more at the practice space, so you're not gonna be able. You might be able to get some from us New Year's Eve, but I would doubt it. I mean, this is a record that should have always been on vinyl. Like,
it sounds great.
Yeah, they did a really
I love
good job.
the two different discs and flipping the sides. Like the sequence all works.
Yeah, that was tough getting the sequence to work. But being what this record is about, and being that it's about nostalgia and things from the 70s, it always should have been on vinyl. You know?
For real. Okay. Segueing from that, New Year's Eve, Bottom Lounge, Lifers. Let's talk real quick about the movie, which is having its debuts everywhere. Debuted at the Music Box, which, I mean, knowing you, the Chicago guy, the movie guy, I mean, if you're going to debut it anywhere, that's where you should debut it.
Yeah.
And you just debuted it in Lake County?
There was the Lake County Film Festival, and it was at CLC, the College of Lake County, which is kind of where I became a film nerd. My dad took me to see a 15-chapter Captain America serial from the 40s.
Oh, my Lord.
And, you know, I was like 9, and it was just like, it blew my mind, you know. And after that, I was really into, you know, these fringe type of things.
The reviews that I'm seeing online that people are posting, that you're sharing, are overwhelmingly positive, enthusiastic. You're not putting this on or in a digital format, at least not at this point.
No.
Is this just old school? I'm an analog guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's also people need to go to movie theaters, you know, and I want people to go to the movie theaters. And it's a post-COVID thing. I'm not going back into my house, you know, and I'm not going to stream stuff for you anymore. If you want to come out and see this, I mean, if you want to see this, you have to come out and see it. You have to come out and sit with other people. You have to be social. You have to get out of your house. We all have to get out of our houses. We have to get off of our phones.
Yes.
Get away from that stuff.
Yes.
And look people in the face and look them in the eye when we talk to them. We can't keep this up.
The communal experience of seeing a movie in a theater.
Got to do that.
You got to do that.
Plus, it's a concert movie, you know, and it just. I'm sure people have great setups in their homes. I know a lot of people who do, but I don't want people watching this on their phone.
I totally get it.
It wouldn't be the same, you know.
I totally get it. All right, so what's next for Lifers, and when can people see this? When can people get off their ass and leave their homes?
There's going to be screenings in January. There'll be a screening in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, on, I believe, the 17th of January. There's going to be the 10th of January. The 17th of January, it's going to play midnight at Music Box.
Awesome.
So, and this is part of what I want to try to do. I want to turn it into a midnight movie.
You're making your own rock and roll high school.
Yes. I want it to be like, we're making our own Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's what I want it to be. You know, there was a time when you couldn't see Rocky Horror Picture Show on video. If you wanted to see it, you had to go to a theater.
And that was about as communal an experience as you can get.
And it was scary, too, right? You'd never seen it. You're like, oh, I'm a virgin. They're going to
I don't want them to throw shit at me. Yeah.
So I want it to be like that. You know, I want this movie, and it is a movie. It's not a video. So I want it to grow in this sort of stature where people are like, have you seen this? Oh, you got to see this.
All right. So thank you for doing this. Last time we talked, I think it was Taste of Randolph. So we were overdue for this. Whatever happened to PJ Souls?
Congratulations on 1,000 episodes.
Thank you. You know, we've talked about this before. I'm kind of a lifer at this stuff. Like I'm not giving up. Like the secret is just keep doing it.
No, you're our hero. We look up to you. we'll put together an episode. We're like, what would James think about that?
Stop.
It comes up a lot.
But you know, going back to the creative process and the songwriting process, I mean, the secret to putting out an album, to writing a song, is just keep doing it. Like, same with the podcast. Like, I'm going to keep doing these because this is not what I need to do. That sounds lame, but this is my creative outlet.
Right. Yeah. And you hope you get better. You know.
You hope.
Right.
that's the hope. All right, Scott Lucas, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just to kind of wrap everything up, fuck New York too.
Fuck them, man.